Hi guys, sorry to interrupt your viewing, but please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you.
It was the kind of morning that tricks you into believing everything's going to be okay. You know the type, sun shining through the kitchen window just right, birds doing their little soundtrack thing outside, and the smell of fresh coffee lingering like some cinematic promise that today is special. I'd spent 3 days organizing decorations, another 2 baking cupcakes because my sister said store-bought was too impersonal, and Mark, my fiancé, had helped exactly once, by carrying in the folding chairs and acting like he'd won a damn medal for it. The apartment was packed, overly pink, and humming with polite chatter. My cousin Lacey had made a diaper cake that looked like a Pinterest miracle. The playlist I spent 2 hours curating was on low in the background, all happy, light songs with just enough bounce to distract from the nausea I was still battling in month 7. People were handing me gifts wrapped in soft tissue paper and complimenting my glow, which, to be clear, was just sweat and hormonal acne doing their thing. I smiled anyway. I played along. Because that's what you do at your own baby shower, right? You perform. You sit on a throne made of throw pillows and pretend the pressure in your lower back isn't eating you alive while you open pack after pack of onesies and say things like, "Oh my God, so cute," on repeat like a broken Barbie. Mark was milling around the edges, laughing too loud at his cousin's jokes and sipping punch like it had tequila in it. He wasn't really in it with me. He hadn't been for a while, if I'm being honest. But I kept brushing that feeling off. I told myself it was stress. Men get weird when there's a baby coming. They don't get to nest or glow or get gift bags full of nipple cream. They just kind of orbit the chaos. So I let him be distant. I let a lot slide that I probably shouldn't have. Then Linda stood up. She had that smug little half-smile she always wore when she was about to say something cruel and pretend it was just a joke. The music had just faded out, almost on cue, and the room turned its attention toward her like she was some priestess about to give a blessing. She clinked her glass, of course it had to be wine, because Linda was not a punch kind of woman, and raised it high, like she was leading a damn toast at a royal wedding. "We're just so happy," she began, dragging the words out like molasses, "and of course, we're all just waiting on the DNA test to prove he's really the father." I swear to God, the silence in that room could have flattened mountains. And then someone, probably Mark's drunk cousin Jeremy, snorted. And that was all it took. Laughter. Nervous, high-pitched, fake-as-hell laughter that rippled through the room like a wave of termites. People didn't know whether to chuckle or cringe, so they chose the path of least resistance and acted like Linda had just cracked the world's funniest joke. A couple even raised their glasses. Mark didn't say a word. Not one damn word. He just stood there, grinning that empty smile he gets when he's trying not to pick sides. That's what he's good at, being a damn spectator in his own life. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the cupcakes like part of me wanted to. I just stood up, grabbed my purse and my keys, and walked the hell out. My sister Bree called after me, and Lacey tried to follow, but I didn't look back. You don't look back at a car crash you've already walked away from. I didn't go home. Not to the apartment Mark and I shared. Anyway, I drove to Bree's, let myself in with the spare key I wasn't even sure she still left under the mat, and curled up on her too small couch with a bottle of orange Gatorade and a blanket that smelled like dog. I stared at the ceiling for an hour. Not crying. Just vibrating. Like my whole body was filled with bees and none of them had a damn plan. Around 9, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then again, 10 minutes later. Different number. Then again. And again. By midnight, I had 4 missed calls from 4 different numbers. I didn't need to listen to the voicemails to know who it was. She wasn't sorry, not in the way that counted. She just hadn't expected me to leave. She hadn't expected me to have enough self-respect to walk away. That's what pissed her off. That I didn't stay, smile, and let her turn my baby shower into a joke about whores and paternity tests. I lay there on the couch, phone buzzing beside me like it was mocking me, and I knew something bigger was happening. This wasn't just about her mouth running wild. This was about something she knew, or thought she knew, and now she was scrambling to contain it. And Mark? He still hadn't called. Not once. But Linda? Linda was calling from every number she could find. Like a woman chasing something she'd spent years trying to bury. And that's when I started to wonder, was she trying to warn me or cover her ass? There's something wild about silence when it's intentional, when it's not just the absence of noise, but a deliberate decision to shut the whole damn world out. That first morning after the baby shower debacle, I turned off my phone completely and shoved it into the back of Bree's junk drawer, the one filled with old mail, takeout menus, dried pens, and a lighter shaped like a flamingo she swore she didn't remember buying. I sat in her kitchen with a chipped coffee mug of half-warm tea and watched the dust motes drift through the sunlight like it was some slow-motion film, trying not to think, trying not to feel, trying not to call him. Bree didn't ask questions. She just handed me a plate of scrambled eggs and toast and told me I looked like hell. I didn't disagree. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten more than a spoonful of yogurt, and my stomach felt like it was trying to digest concrete. She told me I could stay as long as I wanted, and she meant it, not in the polite, just being nice way people say stuff like that, but with the kind of quiet ferocity only an older sister who's seen you through breakups, funerals, and your freshman year eyebrow ring could carry. I stayed in her guest room for days, breathing in candle wax and dryer sheet scent, ignoring the outside world like it owed me something. And maybe it did. Maybe it owed me just one goddamn day where my pregnancy didn't feel like a social experiment or a scandal. But the universe doesn't operate on fairness. It just spins on, indifferent, while you figure out how to survive the weight of what's been done to you. When I finally turned my phone back on, maybe 5 or 6 days later, I can't even remember anymore, the thing lit up like Times Square. 37 missed calls, a dozen voicemails, and texts that ranged from, "Please talk to me," to "You're overreacting," to "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Most of them were from Linda. A few were from Mark. One was from Terrence, which shocked the hell out of me because I didn't think that man had ever said more than 3 words to me that weren't, "Hi" and "Good lasagna." I deleted most of the messages without listening. I couldn't stomach their voices. Couldn't deal with Linda's fake regret or Mark's version of damage control. And that's the thing about people like them. They don't really want to fix anything. They just want the discomfort to go away. They don't want truth. They want quiet. They want the woman who just got humiliated in front of 3 dozen people to sit back down and smile for the camera again. It didn't work. On day 6, I got another call, different number, same pattern. I let it ring out. Then again. Another number. Then another. The voicemails were short and frantic, less polished now. Linda's voice was starting to crack, and honestly, that was the first time it felt like she might actually be scared. Not of me, though. She never gave enough of a damn about me. She was scared of something else. Something bigger. Here's the thing, I counted the calls, just to feel like I was still in control of something. In the span of 6 days, I got almost a dozen calls. Actually, 11. Wait, that's more than a dozen, right? Anyway, the point is, they kept coming, and I kept ignoring them. Until the final one. It was just past 9. Bree had gone to bed early, exhausted from a 12-hour shift at the hospital. I was curled up on the couch with a bowl of cereal, watching reruns of some show I'd seen 100 times, the kind where you know exactly what's going to happen, and that's the whole comfort of it. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Another unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail again, but something in me twitched. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was the part of me that just wanted to hear how bad they were squirming. I answered. There was a pause, just air, soft static, the kind that makes your hair stand up like the phone line itself is nervous. Then her voice. "Kayla, please. Don't hang up." It was Linda. She sounded like she'd been crying. Or drinking. Or both. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice lower now, less sharp, like someone who'd been holding their breath for days. "It's not about you. It's about Mark." I didn't say anything. She kept talking. "You don't know everything. He never told you everything." I could hear her swallowing, like her throat was made of gravel. I thought I was doing the right thing back then. But now I don't know anymore. And that was it. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about one cruel comment at a party. This was something else. Something deeper. I stayed on the line, listening to her breathe, waiting for the rest of it, but she didn't say another word. And for the first time since I walked out of that baby shower, I wasn't just angry. I was afraid. When someone like Linda calls you sounding broken, you don't know whether it's manipulation or an actual fracture in the ice-cold mask she's worn since the day you met her. I sat on that couch for 15 whole minutes after the call ended, phone still in my hand, screen black, but somehow still buzzing in my palm like it carried leftover static from the voice that had just poured through it. I didn't tell Bree that Linda called. I didn't want the argument, didn't want the lecture about boundaries and narcissists and trauma bonding. I just sat there, cereal going soggy in the bowl, trying to imagine what the hell Linda meant when she said Mark hadn't told me everything. The next morning, I drove to Linda's house. Alone. Against Bree's loud, curse-laced advice and my own damn better judgment. I didn't even know what I was hoping to get. Answers, maybe, or just confirmation that I wasn't crazy for thinking something more had always been bubbling beneath the surface of that family. Linda lived in this oversized colonial house out in the suburbs, the kind with shutters that don't actually shut and a wreath for every holiday. Her driveway was empty. Mark's truck wasn't there. That made me feel something. I don't know what. Safer, maybe. She opened the door fast, like she'd been standing behind it, waiting, checking the peephole every few seconds. Her face looked rough, like she hadn't slept, like whatever pride she'd usually painted across her features had finally peeled off. She didn't smile. She just stepped back and waved me in like we were swapping Amazon packages and not standing in the middle of a goddamn life implosion. I followed her through the front hall, past the framed family photos that now felt more like staged crimes than memories. She didn't offer me coffee or ask how I was doing. No small talk. She walked straight to the back of the house, into what looked like some kind of study or reading room, with a massive antique desk and shelves of books nobody had opened in 20 years. She sat down, slowly, like her bones were too heavy for her body. "You think I hate you," she said, not even looking at me, just staring at a spot on the wall like it owed her money. But I don't. I never did. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure if I believed her or if it even mattered. She took a deep breath, one of those deep in the ribs kind of breaths that people take right before they say something they can't take back. "Mark was engaged once before," she said, and the room seemed to tilt slightly, like the floor under me forgot how to be solid. Her name was Jamie. This was about 4 years ago. I felt my heart beat in my throat. I'd known about past relationships, of course. Mark wasn't a virgin when we met, but engaged was never a word he dropped in all our late-night talks or Sunday morning hangovers or gentle arguments about the future. Engaged meant rings, meant promises, meant lies, apparently. She got pregnant, Linda continued, her voice starting to tremble, and I swear I saw a flicker of something behind her eyes, shame, maybe, or guilt, though I wouldn't bet on it. But it ended. The baby didn't make it. And the breakup, it was bad. He wasn't himself for a long time after that. Still, I stayed quiet. Linda opened the top drawer of the desk and pulled out a thick envelope, the kind that had yellowed slightly at the corners and was sealed with one of those metal clasps that always feel like opening them will summon ghosts. She held it like it was a bomb, like the paper inside could detonate the version of Mark I thought I knew. "I never believed your baby was his," she said flatly, no drama, just cold honesty. "Not because I hated you, but because I couldn't go through that again." I reached for the envelope slowly, half expecting her to snatch it back, but she let it go, like handing me the weight of her own cowardice. I didn't open it there. I just held it while she talked. She told me Mark changed after Jamie, stopped being the golden boy, became erratic, moody, distant. She told me she had tried to get him into therapy, but he wouldn't go. She told me she blamed Jamie for a long time, but then started blaming herself. Then, finally, I opened the envelope. Photos. Handwritten letters. A hospital report with faded ink and a name I didn't recognize. It felt like rifling through someone else's tragedy, but it was about to be mine too, whether I liked it or not. One photo stopped me cold. Mark. Holding a baby. Not a newborn either. This was a baby with cheeks, with hair, with eyes open wide and staring off like babies do when they're trying to take in a world too big for their understanding. Mark looked happy. Like genuinely, achingly happy in a way I'd never seen on his face in real time. I turned the photo over. In Linda's handwriting, soft and looping like she wanted it to be forgotten one day, Mark and Emma, 7 months old. Emma. There was no Emma in Mark's history as far as I'd ever been told. No middle names, no past funeral, no whispers of what could have been, while he rubbed my belly and planned our own future. Nothing. This was new. This was buried. I looked up at Linda, and for once, she didn't have anything sharp to say. She just looked tired. Older. Like the weight of protecting her son's secrets had finally become too much to carry. I slipped the photo back in the envelope, stood up slowly, and told her I needed to go. As I walked out of that house, envelope pressed to my chest like it might vanish if I let go, I felt something deep in my gut shift. I thought I knew who I was having a baby with. But that photo made it clear I didn't know a goddamn thing. I stared at that photo for longer than I probably should have, my fingers tracing the edges like somehow the truth would slip out from under the glossy surface if I just pressed hard enough. There was something about the way Mark was looking at the baby, Emma, according to the handwriting on the back, that didn't match the version of him I knew. This wasn't a man caught off guard or reluctantly playing daddy for someone else's kid. No, this was the look of a man who had already made peace with fatherhood, who was soaking it in like sunlight through a storm. And the worst part? I'd never seen him look at me that way. Not once. Not when we found out I was pregnant. Not when we picked baby names. Not even at that stupid baby shower when I tried so hard to make everything perfect. So I waited. 2 days. I let the photo sit in the envelope, and I sat with the unease of it like a ticking clock in the back of my brain. Bree kept asking what was wrong, and I kept lying through my teeth, saying I was just tired, just hormonal, just not sleeping well. She knew it was bullshit, but she gave me space, the way only someone who loves you enough to not press too hard knows how to do. When I finally saw Mark again, I didn't lead with emotion. I didn't scream or throw things or give him the drama he probably expected. I asked him to meet me at a neutral place, a coffee shop halfway between our apartment and Bree's place, the kind with loud music and sticky tables and no room for sentiment. He showed up 10 minutes late and had the audacity to look relieved when I didn't throw a latte in his face. I got a photo, I said, flat and cold as the drink I hadn't touched. Mark blinked, like he was bracing himself for a punch, but still trying to look confused. What photo? Emma, I said. 7 months old. You're holding her. The name hit him like a slap. His face twitched just for a second, but I caught it. That baby was never mine, he said too quickly. Jamie lied. She tricked me. She told me it was mine and then admitted later it wasn't. And the hospital report? I asked, sliding it across the table like a poker chip in a bad bluff. He glanced at it, but barely. Forged, he said, voice tightening. She was obsessed. She wanted me to stay. So she faked everything. There was a part of me, some old, soft part, that almost wanted to believe him. But the timeline didn't make sense. The way Linda talked about it didn't make sense. And if Jamie really had tricked him, why was he smiling in that photo like the baby had healed something in him? Bree, of course, didn't buy a single word. She was pacing in the hallway when I got home, phone already in hand, researching private DNA testing labs and muttering about men and their walking red flags. We don't test your baby, she said, planting herself in front of me like a damn lawyer in a courtroom. We test that baby. Emma. If she's not his, fine. We move on. But if she is? You're not staying in the dark another damn second. It took a few calls and some very awkward online sleuthing, but I finally tracked down Jamie. She was living in a smaller town just outside the city, had a public-facing job, and a social media trail that ended about 4 years ago, which, honestly, only made me trust her more. People trying to vanish usually have a reason. I reached out, told her I wasn't looking for drama, just answers. To my surprise, she replied the same day. Agreed to meet. Said she'd been waiting for this for a long time. Jamie looked older than I expected, more tired, but calm. Not bitter. Not trying to relive the past. Just steady. Like she'd walked through fire and come out the other side already. We sat at a diner. She didn't sugarcoat anything. Mark knew the baby wasn't his, she said, stirring her coffee slowly. But he wanted her to be. He still came around. Took photos. Bought diapers. Rocked her to sleep. But it was like he was trying to prove something to himself, you know? Like he needed to feel like a good guy again. And then? I asked, already knowing what she'd say. Then one day, she said, voice hollow, he just stopped showing up. No call. No explanation. Just gone. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember what song was on the radio or if I hit any red lights. I just remember the envelope on Bree's kitchen counter and the way my hand shook as I tore it open. DNA results. Clean. Professional. Stamped and signed. 2 tests. One was for Emma. One was for my baby. And here's the kicker. One of them wasn't Mark's. But it wasn't the one anyone expected. It wasn't Emma. It was mine. My baby wasn't Mark's. Or at least, that's what the paper said. There's a certain kind of power in silence, in holding a truth so sharp it could cut everyone in the room, but choosing instead to let them wonder whether you're holding a blade at all. That's what I decided, standing in Bree's kitchen with those 2 DNA reports spread out on the table like war plans. I stared at the paper that claimed Mark wasn't the father of my baby, and I didn't cry. I didn't scream or feel betrayed or break a single damn thing. I just stared and thought, well, what now? The obvious move would have been to call Mark, to demand answers, to accuse him of playing me, of sleeping around, of tricking me into thinking I was building something real with someone who had lies layered under his skin like old paint. But here's the thing, the paper didn't make sense. I hadn't been with anyone else. Not even close. I hadn't flirted, hadn't so much as touched another man since the night Mark and I toasted to forever with cheap wine and leftover pizza. So if that paper was right, then someone somewhere was lying. But I didn't know who. And worse? I didn't know if I even wanted to know anymore. Bree wanted to light the whole world on fire. She paced the kitchen for hours, ranting about lawyers and DNA testing labs and how maybe Mark's mom had pulled strings or tampered with something, and I just listened with one ear while the rest of me drifted somewhere quiet. She didn't understand. Not really. Because this wasn't about paternity anymore. This wasn't about science or evidence or who did what when. This was about dignity. About control. About reclaiming something they all tried to steal from me. So I came up with a different plan. One they would never see coming. I told Bree I wanted a second baby shower. Not a big one. Not another circus like the first one. Just a quiet gathering. My people. The ones who actually gave a damn. Bree's eyes lit up, and for the first time in weeks, she looked like herself again. We planned it together. Nothing extravagant, just food, music, laughter, and no one named Linda in a 100-mile radius. The day of the shower, I wore a white dress, not for symbolism or drama, but because it made me feel clean. New. Like I hadn't been dragged through the mud by a family that never wanted me to begin with. The people who showed up were the ones who texted me every day, who dropped off soup, who didn't ask for gossip, but offered support. We laughed. We ate cake. We took pictures. And I posted them. Not all at once. Slowly. Deliberately. One photo here, another there. A short video of Bree making a toast. A clip of me opening a handmade quilt. All tagged. All public. I knew Linda would see them. I wanted her to. But the real strike came later. I found the footage from the first baby shower from one of those relatives who records everything like they're auditioning for some reality TV side gig. I clipped out one moment, just one. Linda, standing with her glass of wine, smiling like the devil's personal secretary. And of course, we're all just waiting on the DNA test to prove he's really the father. The laughter that followed. And then the silence as I stood up and walked out. That's all I posted. Just that. No commentary. No caption. Just raw, uncomfortable truth. Well, actually, I did add one line. They laughed. I left. But now it's my turn. It went viral in a way I never expected. Thousands of comments. Shares. People taking sides. Some dragged Linda like she owed them money. Others speculated about Mark. Some called me brave. Some called me cold. I didn't reply to a single one. But I saw what happened. Linda lost her spot on the local charity board. One of those well-dressed, fake smile positions that let her feel powerful without doing much of anything. People in her neighborhood stopped waving. Parents at her church stopped inviting her to luncheons. The polite little world she'd built cracked down the middle, and she didn't have enough glue to hold it together. Mark showed up at my door 3 nights later. He looked wrecked. Not the fake kind, not the drunk and disheveled kind, but like someone who hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, hadn't stopped thinking. He stood on my porch in the rain with his stupid hoodie pulled up like that would make this look less dramatic. "I need to talk to you," he said. I let him in. I listened. He said the test had to be wrong. He swore he never doubted me. He claimed someone must have made a mistake. He even cried a little, the kind of messy, desperate tears that aren't meant to change the past, just beg for the future. "I'll take another test," he said. "Anytime. Anywhere. Just, please don't give up on me." I told him I'd think about it. That was all. Then, after he left, I did one last thing. I took the envelope with the test results, both of them, and I walked into Bree's backyard, where the air smelled like damp grass and fresh beginnings. I stood over the fire pit, lit a match, and dropped the whole thing in. It curled and blackened and disappeared without a sound. Not because I didn't care, but because I did. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let Linda twist and Mark ache and strangers online turn me into whatever version of the story fits their need for closure. Let them think I'm the villain. Sometimes, the most powerful truth is silence.